Good evening. We are going to call this budget public hearing to order. Ms. Meeker, will you take the roll, please?
Ms. Boucher.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
Ms. Hastings.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Ms. Campbell.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Sadowski.
Here.
And I am here, and I don't think I forgot anyone. All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we start, I want to congratulate our Assistant Superintendent, John Fabrizio, for being named Student Services Director of the Year. Congratulations. Also want to congratulate the boys hockey team on the state championship after a very, very long game. Congratulations to both of them. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Dunn for a brief presentation, and then we will open it up for public testimony.
Okay, thank you. This meeting is being recorded by Concord TV. They do have a mic here and there.
Oh,
And
before you start, there are copies of the presentation.
Well, the budget, that's the
The
copy of
budget,
I'm
if
sorry.
anyone needs it.
Yep. All right, so real quickly, we'll just do a budget overview, talk about where the public information is, and then go to public comment, and then if there's any board discussion after, and then adjourn. So quickly, for expenditures, the overall budget for this year proposed with your general fund, food service fund, grant funds, and capital projects as it relates to CRTC. There's nothing in this budget related to the middle school. This is CRTC, money that goes into their trust that's collected from other districts, for sending districts, and then money that comes out to make improvements to the program. So it was $121,056,879. We'll focus on the general fund, which is $111,574,863, or 2.84% higher than last year. I'll move on. This is the expenditures summary by function group, again showing that 3 million or 2.84% higher. And this is an alternative view by object, which is your salaries, benefits, professional services, property. Most of the, I have a slide here that talks about the drivers, which most of it is salaries, benefits, and debt service. We also made some staff adjustments as it relates to the teaching staff. We're down 4.5 positions for a savings of $523,086. And then support staff down 7.37 or $450,817. And for additions, 3.6 FTE or $389,421. So the net reduction in district staff changes is $584,482. In addition, there is a contracted service proposal to put an SRO at Runlet for $101,654. So with all those, the savings would be $482,828. On the revenue side, we're looking at about a $21,000 reduction in local revenue, $2,753 decrease in state revenue, an increase in federal revenue. Most of that is in the Medicaid. And then in our transfers, we're reducing by $192,500 to come out of your trust funds. And there's also a reduction in savings from the prior year budget of $579,942. So factoring all the, and then for expendable trusts, this is just a summary of what the balances are projected to be at the end of this year, and then what we propose taking out of the trust next year, then what we propose you put into the trust for 26 with a projected balance for at the end of 26. As I mentioned, I think in our first meeting, one of the things that we'll be addressing in this in April is the Facilities and Renovation Expendable Trust Fund, because there is some debt that needs to be taken care of from the middle school project that closes out the broken ground property as we begin the transfer back to the south side. So there'll be a decrease in that amount that you have available to offset the project. And we'll talk about that in April. And then for the taxes, we're looking at a 62-cent increase on the local rate, or 4.44%. On the state side, It's about a $37,000 additional amount in taxes to be raised. Basically, the tax rate stays the same. So when you combine everything, you're looking at a 62-cent increase or a 3.99% between the local and state rate. So on a $300,000 home, that's about a $186 increase. Take whatever assessment in, plug it in, times that rate, and you can determine what your increase will be. Okay? And the drivers, again, you see here salaries, benefits, so a little bit in purchased property, but the $1 million and 73 increase in the purchase services, $1 million of that is offset from revenue coming in from the Special Education Trust Fund to offset the impact of proposal to take more of the transportation for student services in-house, trying to get out of some of the contracting in our hopes to hire more drivers. And then you see the other increases in dues and fees and interest, and principal and transfers, which are most of the debt service for the HVAC projects and buses. And then on the other drivers is the decrease in revenue, which I went over quickly, $21,000 decrease in local, $2,700 in state, increase of $135,000 in federal, a decrease in trust transfers of $192,500, and a decrease in savings from the current year to from last year to, for this current year into next year. So when you total all that up and then subtract the increase in state education tax, you need to raise $3,708,748.38 in local taxes for the education portion. This presentation, including all the prior 5.5 presentations, because I labeled 5 and then we had another one, I labeled that 5A. So are all posted. The work session schedule, tonight is the May 17th hearing. We will have a hearing on Wednesday at central office. Then you'll have an open work session. And then on the 26th, we hope for you to finalize the 26th budget with 5 votes in the affirmative. All this information is posted online on the district's website under the icon budget. These are a list of all the board members. They're on the website as well as in this presentation, which is again posted online. And a copy of version 1.1 is also online, and a copy is here. And now, that's all I have, so public comment. And we'll get out of your way.
Thank you. And this budget that Mr. Dunn summarized is the as presented. There are some areas where the board has talked about making changes, but it has not made any amendments yet. If you would like to testify, I invite you to come up, sign in please, and if you could keep your comments to under 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm signed in. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. My name's Bob Messini, I live in Ward 5. I'm the parent of a kid who went to grades 1 through 5 at Christa McAuliffe, a new modern building. Grades 6 through 8 at Runlet, a senescent appended building. And now she's in 9th grade at Concord High School, an old renovated building. In those 9 years, she said almost nothing, good, bad, or otherwise, about any of those buildings. I never heard things like, Christa McAuliffe is a palace, or Runlet is a dinosaur. There's been none of that. She's always talked about friends, teachers, classes and activities, homework, school lunches. Typical stuff for school kids. By and large, school kids pay little attention to buildings. What they need for a solid education is a building sufficient to facilitate learning from good teachers, small classes, sound curriculum, up-to-date technology, and ample instructional materials. My car is 15 years old, but it's been well maintained, it runs just fine, and it's paid for. When it does come time for me to shop for a new car, I will not bother looking at Corvettes. As much as I would love to have a Corvette, I don't need one, and I certainly can't afford one. What I do need is reliable transportation that doesn't break the bank. I dare say that Concord's exhausted taxpayers cannot afford a Corvette middle school. It was fairly easy to get 2 school district charter amendments on the ballot last November, and they passed overwhelmingly. If the school board can't set a sensible price on an adequate middle school project, no doubt the voters know how to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to testify?
Good evening. Charlie Russell, the far end of Ward 5, Columbus Avenue near Pennacook Street. I wish you all a happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing my green, and it's the color of the day, and I think taxpayers would like to see some green in their wallets when it comes time to pay the tax bills. But the Irish aren't as tight as the Scotch are, but there are some frugal Yankees out there. In case you, we had talked about doing some polls, but the town meetings around New Hampshire did a good job this week ago. And so if you need to know the temper of the times and what's going on out there, the union leader on Friday the 14th, Amherst, 3rd year in a row, the elementary school bond of $52.9 million was rejected for a new elementary school. They got just under 55%. They need 60%. Bedford Fire Station, nearly $9 million. It was rejected, a second fire station. Less than 45%. Bedford kind of applies here. We're talking about the Memorial Field. $3.3 million, Little League field upgrade and improvements in the skateboard park. $3.3 million, didn't get 41%. Might want to consider that when you start talking about Memorial Field. Guilford, improvements and upgrades to the baseball athletic fields. Failed, 425 to 712, 37%. Jaffrey Ringe School, $22.9 million. They just got barely 50% for a design and renovations to a middle school. Milford, $23.5 million, additions and renovations to the school. They got 41%. So, you know, if you need to know the pulse of the people out there, what's going on in Washington, what's going on in Concord, new administration, that's kind of what's going on out there. You know, years ago, not too long ago, but I've been around long enough to be the institutional memory, they moved White's Park up about 2 feet. They literally, and I guess that's what they want to do at Memorial Field, and the reason was because the baseball fields were wet, and I've covered games, sports, as many of you know, and they would move the April baseball games over to White's Park because it was dry. So, you know, I question, I'll say, well, you know, the Memorial Field, how often are games missed because of wet facilities? How much money do we want to spend? Certainly there are other things, but it's not an all or nothing. It seems to me the press box and the stands need some efforts and everything else within the constraints of the budget. I support fixing the Rundlet Middle School roof, take the money from the 16 or 17 million dollar renovation fund that I see here listed in the booklet, which is a great presentation, and let's fix the roof. And I guess that's in the budget. You know, someone suggested they were going to change the theme song at Rundlet to Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head until such time as they fix the roof. But let's fix the roof, and let's do some of the things that were bypassed because we thought we were going to move down the road and do a middle school. As to vans, I'm at the gas station. Here's a man driving a van that picks people up. Do you go out of town? No, I stay in town. I don't know the name of it. He said to me, Manchester tried the van issue and they couldn't find enough drivers. So every problem has a limiting factor. I drive past the Comp on the north end, just past the prison, for years. Big school bus looking for drivers. So, you know, don't go buy vans until you have drivers. That's my thought on that. I think the $16 million reserve fund, and that's actually more, should be used to hold off any increases in the tax rate. I find it incredible that right now, page 19, there's $17 million in the Facilities Purchase and Renovation Expendable Trust Fund, and you're going to raise taxes by $3 million, and you're going to put $2.6 million into the trust fund so that next year there's going to be $19.7 million. Why don't we just not put that money in the trust fund, start using that trust fund to fix the roof and do some of the upgrades that have been missed along the way?
Mr. Russell, your time's about up. If you could finish.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to testify, please sign in. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I have the only mic, so is there any board members who would like to say anything? Our next public hearing is Wednesday at 6 p.m. at the central office. It is set for this year. Next year, I think we should really make sure we're missing not on the same date as the school district concert.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it makes it hard for families to come and for board members. And that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by
Sarah Robinson.
Ms. Robinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Boucher. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.